Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, show number 568. If you've noticed, my backdrop, yes, has changed back to being home. We have traveled back from the Netherlands back to sunny and very hot, heat advisory, Florida. Yay! It's having been born and raised down here, it's to be expected, although it is much hotter than it used to be as a kid, I think. I don't know, but any which way, we are experiencing heat advisories down here, as well as a lot of times in the southern part of the United States. It doesn't escape me that being international for the past few months, local weather in the United States was not one of my highlights of keeping track of, other than just the curiosity of it overhead of my old home. But the changes in weather where we were, the changes in weather where we are here, has such a dramatic impact on so much of our daily lives, including our travel plans and those of others, and work plans as well. So it is something that if you look at data sets and you look at using that external data into your projections and so forth, forecasts and modelings as to what you're doing, you get some interesting correlations between weather impact, the predicted weather impact, and then the actual weather impact. There are similarities and strangely divergence, but I digress. Anyways, we are here for me to talk about something I didn't get to enjoy firsthand this year, but having done it for decades and multiples per year, decades, there is a pattern of what happens when you go to a conference, and different conferences, different impacts, and the post time after that. So I want to take a brief moment today as I unpack from our travels of months and address something that just happened. And for so many of my colleagues, it was so much fun to listen and keep track and see their feedbacks and give their opinions about things and share what they've discovered and so forth with me. Plus also our hospitality marketing club, people also went and what they saw, what they were impressed with, what they were really sadly disappointed about, and what have you. So today's show, number 568, is post-conference perspectives. We all have them. It all happens. It happens all the time for every conference, whether you are an active participant, speaker, whether you are a vendor going out with your goals and objectives as to why you spend so much money to be there, to the joyous participant that just gets to see and experience it all and be exposed to so many things. I think there's a time mark that we must consider as we talk about the perspectives that you get from a conference, as to how many conferences you've been to, how big the conference is and what it's related to, and your role in each of those times that you go. When you're new to the industry, and this is your earliest conferences to go to, and maybe the first one you've gone to of this size. And when I say that, I think of this conference this past week in San Antonio with HITECH from HFTP and HSMI's commercial conference coalescing together as they have. The enormity of it strikes you. I think there was a little over 6,100 attendees for the HITECH in San Antonio that they just did in a press release that I shared. That's a lot of people. And there was 900, I think, it was signed up attendees to the HSMEI. I believe that number will get updated here shortly as to what that number is. So that's a lot of people. Now, that's not 61 plus 900. There's great crossover, but there's also some segmentation. So you figure there, just to be generously say, there was over 6,100 people that attended the conferences in San Antonio. So that's quite a descendance upon it. Plus also there was the NBA Finals that had an impact into the local market. So good for San Antonio. They got a very heavy dose of demand generation for all these events. But going back to our topic of post-conference perspectives, if you're new into going to conferences, and this being one of your first large-scale ones, it is dauntingly overwhelming. We've talked about preparation for the conference 2 weeks ago as to what to do, what goals to have, what ways to approach it, the things that will be of high value, the things that will be of inconsequence, and what have you. It kind of plays a pattern. Content tends to be relatively vanilla. No really huge big reveals, unless of course you're early in your career, as we're now talking about, where you may have not been exposed to perspectives that were there at the conference, and it opens your eyes to things that you hadn't considered before because of the people that you've met. As time goes on and you move up into the ranks of responsibility and seniority, your objectives change to these conferences. Obviously, your networking relationships change with these conferences, but also your interest in what is being presented changes in these conferences. No longer you're the eyes of wonder, where you're seeing new things for the first time. You're looking for the new things that you have yet to see. You've become, I wouldn't say tainted, but you certainly have been down the road a while, and you've seen a lot of things, and you've seen things that haven't worked out and things that surprisingly worked out that you weren't aware of, and so forth and so on. So this arc of your career has a huge impact on the post-conference perspective as to your goals and reasons for going there, as also to your participation. Again, vendor, speaker, or just participant, attendee. And also whether you were able to take the time to enjoy all of the content that was there, or you're there for the exposure of all the vendors that were there. Again, purpose and perspective. The things you walk away from a conference, from these things, are the same things that we told you to be in preparation for the networking that you will be exposed to. New and early in your career, you find that to be refreshing. You get to meet people. You're not alone in your interests. You're not alone in your perspectives or opinions or functions and things. And sometimes it can be intimidating, where you thought you were so unique. You find out that you are one of many. Then there's the opposite. You get to meet people that you didn't know existed and create relationships that are not even touched yet. You've just walked fresh from it. You still have their business card in your luggage. You may be just now unpacking from the stuff that you're doing in preparation for next week's work or this weekend's work, to catch up and what have you. And you haven't even begun to re-see those relationships that you connected with at the conference. They're the joyous ones. They're the ones that, if built well and you found people that you truly enjoyed and shared time with and got to share ideas with, those are the nurturing relationships that I still cherish for decades after having met people like Tim Peter, Robert Cole, Edward St. Onge, Stuart Butler, on and on and on, Don Hay, the list goes on and on. That has a good feel for, as you go through your arc of your career, reaffirmations of your networks. I think in some ways, though, you begin to get isolated. You have such a network of people that you want to connect with when you're at these conferences. You tend to not take as much time to kindle new relationships as easily as you once did early in your career. You tend to magnet towards the people that you already have relationships with. You optimize that time. You add as much time as you can to it, to relish in the fact that you have this unique opportunity for a brief period of time to spend quality one-on-one time with people, or one on 2 or 3 times, to be able to spend time together. You're less likely to go to the parties to ignite new conversations. Unless, of course, you bring an entourage with you and you have to bring them in facilitation to all the things that you have as a goal for your company. But for the most part, you tend to harbor towards people you've already been familiar with. The younger you are in your career, the more open you are to finding out new relationships and discoveries. That's a neat part when it comes to that. Some of the things that you do is you come from the conference with a new sense of optimism. And I hope this lingers longer than it can sometimes be blunted. This optimism of all the things that are possible. You see these vendors with products. You see vendors that this is their first and only shot at presenting their product. You see all this hopefulness of what they think are solutions. You see a lot of stuff that you're just looking at going, I don't know how long that's going to last. I don't know if that's really a niche to go for. You critique as you go along all the things you're exposed to, or you look at things that is so novel, that's so creative. But there's an optimism that, one, the world is bigger than you sometimes daily feel with your work. And two, it makes you think of things that you didn't think of before going to the conference. And that's the magic of the optimism that you come from the conference with, is the feeling like, wow, there are some people out there that are really trying to figure this stuff out, and that they've come up with creative, albeit maybe not potentially successful, but creative ways of doing this. And you see the pieces to the puzzle in a different way. You see the canvas begin to get played out as to, that's probably not going to last, but it will contribute to something that's going to be better at it. Or you see that there's a waking up of a giant, that all these small businesses are filling a void that the giant didn't do, a large vendor company or whatever. And they're just going to say, oh, we better do this because we're beginning to get these vendors doing it for us. Let's swallow them up, maybe buy them or replace them, or just do the service. So you begin to see the lay of the land, the canvas of how the businesses interact or don't interact, or how the evolution of those products become through. You also get inundated with the buzz stuff for it. And optimistically, you see that as it's fun to watch how people try to challenge the use of the latest, greatest curiosities into what they either are currently doing or what they're potentially trying to do, the smoke that they're still trying to sell to get the money to make it a reality. But it's all fun in the sense of that euphoric optimism, that happiness that, wow, there's some really cool stuff out there. Um, you also come back from the conference with this optimism of all these things with a very real, and if not now, soon when you get back into the chair at your office or your work, of the reality of the integration and transition issues that really are facing the cool stuff you thought maybe we should think about that. Maybe we should consider. Maybe I can present that to my superiors. And if you're in that role of a superior, the evaluation process with your team as to is that something we should be doing, then hits the ground, stops the walls, tractor pull in the mud kind of stuff, where it just the integrations aren't possible without large scale changes. The transitions aren't as probable given the fact that there is contract renegotiations or contract terminations or all the things of the reality of what you saw as potential and what you thought would be really cool and you could see value in it in your organization. You want to bring it back to, again, your team, or you're in control of the team, you want to bring back your team for evaluation, that just start hitting those walls of so that is a bit of a post-conference perspective as well, that those things are going to happen for those things. Now, as you get farther into your career cycle, you can sift through those pretty quickly. You'll know because you're more in tune with your scope of your projects, scope of your tools, scope of your contracts, scope of your company, that even though you look at the product at the conference and say optimistically that that is really cool, that is really neat, you also realistically know that that is not something you're going to be able to take on in its current form, simply because either it's nascently too small and unproven, or too unscalable for what you need, or three, it's just not fully baked yet for it to be a serious consideration for what it would take for you to implement them. But again, the idea that it even presents itself, the idea that somebody has come up with it, the idea that it is even in its beginning forms, that optimism of that is great, even though the reality of the integration, the transitions of the usage of it will stagnate it or pause it or shelf it or what have you. The last thing out of the things I'd like to mention about post-conference perspectives is the scorecarding you do for yourself. Not just you as an individual compared to those that whom you meet, how smart or how well or how cultivated their product is or their platform or what they do for work, or compare yourself to those that are on stage doing what they say that they're doing in comparison to what you know you're doing. All that scorecarding you go for yourself, but you also scorecard your company. Where are we in comparison to what I'm being presented by other companies? When I talk to other people that I network with and I find out that they're so far ahead on some of those things, but like even social media, sometimes the presentation isn't the reality. It's a snapshot that wants to be presented. It's not the reality of the film. And that is unfair to you and your company to feel that you are behind on some things when you're not taking into account the things that they on the other side might be looking at you going, man, I wish I had that stability or that culture or all the things that you don't equate in comparison to because you have them, and they see them as something they don't have. The same thing you're doing with them. Wow, they're so far advanced in their tech stack. They have an integration with their CRM right off the bat. Man, they're able to go through with post-day engagements. I don't even send a post-day engagement out. You do these comparisons as you talk and listen to people and see presentations or see products displayed as to what we're not even thinking about this stuff. Wow, I didn't even know you could do that stuff. That's the again the optimism of being at the conference, of being able to be exposed to things that you didn't even know were possible or being done, and then look at yourself. Well, we don't even think like that. We're not even thinking about that. We have no way of doing that. Our systems couldn't even connect with that. Whatever it is, that scorecarding is actually a positive for consideration in the idea that if you are comparing yourself and you see where you could do better than what you're doing right now, using something better than you have right now, and you're comparing the limitations you have of yourself, and you see the transition issues, the integration issues of whatever it is, you you're good with the idea that that draws upon it making objective goals, considerations, even though you know realistically you have integration transition issues, but maybe not that way of doing it where you can't use that product or can't use what was shared as to what they were doing because it works for them, but it won't work for you. It does open your idea of consideration on how can we do it? How can we create that same type of solution, or at least chip at it that we have some aspect of the solution that we can get that we don't currently have? What way can we improve ourselves? That scorecarding is good. And also for your own career, when you look at people going, wow, I just talked to somebody that started kind of where I started, and but they've advanced so quickly with what they're doing, what have you. Opportunities being what they may, people that they interact with being may, and personalities that being with may. It's never going to compare yourself personally one on one equally with another person, but you can measure what they've done and say, is that something that I was given an opportunity to do that I didn't see it in the same perspective, and they did it their way, and maybe it gives me something to consider. Maybe I shouldn't just do what I think I've done historically, but rather reevaluate, is there a different way for me to do it? Those comparisons are positive comparisons. Those are the ones that you come to and say, I want to look at this not just the way I normally do. How can I look at it differently? And these give you role model examples of how different looks, how the same situations, scenarios for what you can understand would be treated differently by them than it is for you. And those comparisons coming from a conference are good because it gives you a kind of sense of relevance. Where am I in the pantheon of what is being done at what I do? And at the level of my age, level of my experience, the level of my education, level of my networking, whatever it is, it gives you this alternate perspective to scorecard yourself against somebody else. As I just mentioned with your company, looking at the company and saying, what can my company do in relationship to the things we should do that I'm now aware of that I hadn't considered and considered the value of them? What can we do about this? It does open doors, and you'd be surprised coming back to your team that may not have made the conference with you, that it gives them a sense of inspiration as well, because you're coming back refreshed, optimistic. Reality is reality, and functional capabilities and so forth aside, and finances and what have you. But the idea that there's always something to be done, the hope of it, you're infusing that with your team. I always used to bring back little Chotskys and so forth for all the clients. I mean, I don't talk about clients, for all my team members, as a way of letting them know I thought of them when I was on the trip. They're meaningless in the sense that, they're a squishy toy or something like this. You'd be surprised how many are kept decades after they were given. Not because of the value that the squish toys are stress relief, although it may have been used for that from time to time. It was a memento. It was the kindness and the thoughtfulness that you came back with stuff. Obviously, you bring back collateral or take pictures of collateral. The technology has changed more that you can gather collateral a lot better. You don't have to be taking pounds of paper home as back in the old days it was. But so many people intend well by bringing it back, but they don't actually do anything with it. They end up throwing it, but they just check the box that they brought back content, or gave links to content, or connected their team members that would be most interested in the content. What you need to do post-conference as well is follow up with that. You probably haven't even shared this stuff with your team yet. That might be next week because you're just back from flying, driving, whatever it is. You're making it back to reorganize. Maybe you have to work over the weekend. Maybe you don't. Whatever the circumstance may be, you probably haven't come back and debriefed with the team, your team, what you were exposed to and what you were wanting to share with them. That's the first stage of it. The second stage of it is follow up. Once you do that, ask them if they got a chance. Give them a reasonable amount of time. Don't push them. Don't nag them. Hey, did you look at the stuff? Hey, did you look at the stuff? Give them time. Everybody has their work. They're better than anybody. But get back with them and say, hey, did you get a chance to look at the data? Oh, yeah. Well, great. Anything stick out for you? Because the reason why I grabbed it for you was a particular reason. I was hoping you found it. Did you see the reason why I grabbed it for you? If they hadn't read it, they're going to feel bad because they don't have an answer. If they had read it, they probably understand why you gave it to them and they can answer it easily and you feel good. But that cycle of it, like, hey, look, I thought of you. I thought this was something you'd be interested in. I brought this information back for you for this reason. Maybe they even asked for that type of information. And I'm showing that I did this not out of like, okay, got it, checkbox, give it to whoever it was that asked. It's that you genuinely cared, that hopefully it helped with what they were asking for or helped with what they weren't aware of, but that they know that you thought of them not just out of, yeah, okay, it'll justify the trip. It's that you really do want to be helpful to them, to give things to them that could be of benefit. That's as equally important post conference as all the follow ups to the networking that you did with people. If you're a vendor and you want to do, the follow ups have a whole different meaning because that's the value proposition of why you spent the money to be there. Timing is everything. Content memory is everything. What you talk to them about is everything. Um, it's funny. There's been this huge arc way back in the day. It was very clear. Hi, this is Lauren. We spoke at the conference. You expressed specific interest in such and such. We had this dialogue about such and such. I'm getting back with you about answering the questions or following up with the fact that you said you were going to review our content to ask better questions. There was a formality to it. Now it's turned into the hey. Oh yeah, we were I was just nothing really big going on. I just want to check back with you. Honestly, it demeans the relationship by trying to act so casual of like, hey, we hooked up, we connected, right? We were talking back and forth. We really had a good conversation. I really want to be able to help you, and it sounds like you really, we could really do stuff. It's a lot of hype, and it's a lot of garbage. You are there for the reason that you're there. It's like, look, this is our industry. I'm meeting you because you have a product that might be interested. You're talking to me because I might be someone that buys your product. Let's keep it for what it is. If over time the relationship goes into a, hey, this is great, what got you into the business kind of thing, whatever, that goes on its own tangent. Business is business. The connections should be treated as business. So hopefully vendors out there listening to the show, be clear about your, purpose. Hey, I am following up because you talked to me, or I'm following up because you gave us information. We scanned your badge and you stopped by. Now, whether it was because of the squeaky toy that we gave you or whether you're legitimately into our product, tell me. If you have questions of my product, or if you don't remember my product, I'm happy to tell you about my product. But I'm doing this because I spent a shit ton of money to get in front of you. And you showed up, and I'm continuing that conversation. The reality of those clear, concise ways of communication is way more productive than the soft, squishy, wow, remember at the cocktail party, we were going crazy. Woo, you were dancing. You know what? Talk to me why you're calling me. Because you're trying to do business with me, and I'm trying to decide whether I want to do business with you or vice versa. So these are post-conference considerations. Team, the optimism coming from the conference of the things that are possible. The cold hard reality that we will come up with integration and transitions of what those things really truly mean and have a value relationship to you. Newfound relationships or recultivation of old relationships, reaffirmations of them. Scorecard. As to how you compare yourself and your company to everyone those around you. Notice I didn't say anything about the content because I don't think there's content worth considering. There's novel content, and like I said, earlier in your arc of career, it can have a more profound impact on you as to things that you weren't exposed to or aware of, and what have you. And the content has great meaning, but the content is usually old, vanilla, and neutered. There's not a lot of secret sauce that's handed out anymore. There's a lot of reaffirmation and bragging and so forth. And if not, it's a sales pitch about what they could and can do for you, but won't give you the detail until you have a one-on-one conversation with them, whatever it is. But there's a whole lot of just, here's some things that are helpful. Now, people will come off trying to be that way. And maybe there's some content pieces that came that way. And I do hope from talking to my friends when I debrief with those that attended, they'll tell me there were some great presentations of content. But conferences by merit of content are not the main reason for going. If anything, they're almost the last reason for going because most of the content is not as helpful as it could and should be, as it is. It's the bait to bring you to the conference where the vendors are there because they're the ones that actually paid the bill for the event. They're the ones that paid for the space. They're the ones that paid for the interactions. And your payment of attendance did the same thing. And the content was the extra to that process. So wanted to make sure we talked a little bit about the post-conference. We'll have more perspectives as I get to talk more and more with others that are coming back and they get the chance to debrief on themselves and tell me all the things that they exposed and what with you. So some topics will come out of that as well. I do know that next week I want to start tapping back into the BI tool conversation because a lot of that was at the conference, new BI tools and so forth, and the reporting versus the um, predictive and prescriptive that goes along with the process of data. Um, some interesting feedbacks on dashboards, and I want to get into that in a topic of a show. So we'll get to that, if not next week, the week after, to bring upon the feedback I get from my friends that join the conference. So thank you so much for joining us on our TV channel, the Hospitality Channel. 209 countries. It's on all smart TVs. Plus, it's also an iOS and Google Play app. You can watch it on your phone, iPad, what have you, Android phone. If you're watching us on the Simulcast, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, thank you so much for catching us on all of those platforms as well. If you want to watch any of our previous shows and podcasts, you can go to hospitalitychannel.tv. They're all there. And also, you'll get them as a recap on Hospitality Radio. We're in 39 countries with that. We do retranslate the TV show in 11 languages, and we do recast the show Wednesday mornings at 11:30 a.m. Sydney time for APAC friends, and London time for our European and Mideast friends. And of course, if you're a hospitality marketer professional, please join us at thehospitalitymarketing.club. Go there, put your email in, and we'll go from there. So with that, my name is Lauren Gregg. I thank you for the privilege of your time and look forward to talking to you next week.